Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 25th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. If we take a look, you can see the frontal system just off the Washington, Oregon coast as we speak. It's going to bring some precipitation in today, some gusty winds with it as well. But the bigger storm lies out here across the Gulf of Alaska. Now you can see it in its baroclinic leaf stage. Baroclinic means that you've got some tight gradients out there. Barotropic means lesser gradients, or more likely in the tropics. Baroclinic comes from an old meaning that the clinic is the hospital. So you've got something out of whack, you've got some unbalanced here, and that's what this storm system is. Big pressure gradient, strong winds will be moving into British Columbia, and this is going to try to take a swiping blow here at Washington, but most of the effects are going to be up into British Columbia. We'll go over those in some details here in a moment as we go through the video this morning. Taking a look at where we are right now, you can see there's some cool wave action clouds out there. I was out trying to get some pictures here just a few minutes ago, but we do have some precipitation headed our way. If we scroll back towards sunrise, you can kind of see that some fairly clear skies east of the mountains there and across the Oregon Cascades as well, but you can clearly see the frontal system is going to be rolling through as we go through the day today. And there is a chance for a thunderstorm mainly across some of northeast Washington. And there's a chance for convergence zone activity as we go through this evening as well. We'll take a look at those details also. So we've got blowing dust advisories for eastern Washington and for portions of eastern Oregon. Watch out. This visibility can drop off dramatically. You cannot see your hand in front of your face sometimes, 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. And look at that, Vantage to Spokane, Ritzville to Tri-Cities, and 395. So heads up. Again, that is today with some gusty winds, especially across southeast Washington. Elevated fire concerns Wednesday as well, 45 miles per hour. Anything that does develop could spread quickly. Some low relative humidities also. And here we go with the wind gusts. You can see some strong winds coming across the region. And again, that's for this evening and afternoon. And same thing, Pendleton, Oregon. They're calling attention to it as well. The blowing dust, perhaps a rapid fire spread, and maybe even an isolated thunderstorm there, mainly across the Blue Mountains there. And if we take a look at SeaTac yesterday, look at that, 78 degrees, 9 degrees above average, and no precipitation officially yesterday. Probably a little bit coming here today and maybe a bit more as we go through Thursday into Friday, but not looking at huge amounts. Probably going to end up the month just below average for the month of September, which is 1.6 inches of rain. We've only got 4/10 so far. I've checked this weather station here down towards Lincoln City, and if I scroll out, you can see everybody in the surrounding areas and their weather stations as well. Highly recommend this station. If you want one of these, click on the link down below to save 10% off. You can see all the different parameters it does. The wind updates every few seconds. Lightning detection system stores all the data for you in the cloud. So again, click on that link below if you want 10% off. Now, taking a look at a wider view of things here, this is the Gulf of Alaska. It's starting to get active, and we've got the frontal system coming through now. Japan would be to the far left. There's Alaska, and there's Washington State, Hawaiian Islands down here. So if I put this into motion, there goes our first frontal system as we go through the day today. Then this more power-packed storm drives into western British Columbia, strong gradient with it, bringing some precipitation to the region. And then we look off into the extended a little bit more. Looks like another weak system as we go through the weekend. Then we start to build some ridging here, and we got this cat and mouse game of a stronger system across the Gulf of Alaska and a tight pressure gradient, and probably some sort of an atmospheric river and some precipitation as we go on in through next week as well. This is the very end of last night's European model run, so you can definitely tell we are starting to make the transition towards the fall month with some stronger systems getting wound up here across the Gulf of Alaska. If we take a look at the jet stream about 30,000 feet, I do like to show these nice visual representations. There goes our frontal system today, but then you can see the very tight gradient and the very powerful jet stream associated with the next storm there. So that is just kind of showing you just how cool the air is to the north side of that and how much warmer the air is to the south side of it. Forms that very powerful pressure gradient, and that'll be driving in as we go through Thursday and Friday. Now, taking a look at 6-hour precipitation types, this is just 6-hour running total here, and we're looking at 850 millibar temperatures as some of these blue and these red lines. You can kind of ignore that for the most part. But you can see as we go through the day today, the precipitation starting across western Washington, western Oregon, as we get on in towards this evening, afternoon. And then there's going to be some convergence zone activity here across the central Puget Sound that goes all the way on in towards Thursday morning. And in the meantime, I'm going to back this up again. You can see a 998 developing low here across the Gulf of Alaska. If we look at the 24-hour period, it drops about 18 millibars there. That's close to the consideration for a bomb cyclone at this latitude. And what we mean when we talk about bomb cyclones is that's the pressure drop in a 24-hour period, meeting that criteria. So it's getting close to that. Just the sign of a rapidly developing storm. But you can clearly see it wind up here and then dive towards the Haida Gwaii, and probably a mature cyclone right here, about 978 millibars. Then it starts to fill as it moves on in towards western British Columbia. And you can see the front is somewhat decaying by the time it reaches western Washington and down towards Oregon, not showing too much precipitation for Washington and Oregon versus British Columbia. Again, the lion's share up across western BC. And then we scroll off in towards the weekend, and there's going to be another, this is like late Sunday night, and as we go through the early portion of next week, looks like another strong storm, but this one will be much further north, and again, that decaying front may try to bring some precipitation as we go through the following week across Washington and Oregon. We'll watch that one. So taking a look at the northern hemisphere, you've got Alaska right here. You've got Washington state. And I want you to pay attention to this gradient out here. You can see where the purples and the very dark blues are right up against the red. That's the sign of a very strong pressure gradient. You've got, a big jet stream associated with that pressure gradient, and that's where these mid-latitude cyclones like to develop. And this is probably the strongest one going on in the northern hemisphere. As you can see, you track along that dark blue line and the purple line. You see that red doesn't butt up against any of these other areas as you scroll across the northern hemisphere, but it does right there, and that's why this very strong storm system is developing. It's going to race across the Gulf of Alaska and into western BC, and if I put that into motion, you can see it continue on as we go on into the day Thursday, and then on Friday that kicks through British Columbia there with that very powerful storm system. Again, just a little bit too far north for much of the Puget Sound and for some of western Oregon, but we do have some stronger wind gusts showing up for some of the northwest interior, some of the Washington coast, Vancouver Island, and some of British Columbia. Now, again, one more time, bombogenesis here. You can check this out if you want. Go ahead and Google it. You can see that it does depend on pressure drop in a 24-hour period. That's all that it means here. It's not calling attention to any type of certain type of wind or precipitation amounts. It is purely the drop of pressure in a 24-hour period. Now, I want to show you this as well. This is 3-hour, 2-meter temperature change. So watch what goes on as we go through the day today. We warm up quite nicely, you can see, for portions east of the mountains. But look what happens as we go through this afternoon as those winds really ramp up. Look at some of these temperature drops, over 20 degrees in a 3-hour period for portions of eastern Washington. So you're definitely going to feel that cool down as we go through the afternoon and the evening hours. As this frontal system rips across the area, it's no doubt going to just be ripping the fields out there. Anything that is unplowed is going to be primed for blowing dust activity across western or eastern Oregon and Washington as we go through the day today, and off into the Idaho Panhandle and for eastern BC as well. So watch out for that, because the visibility will drop dramatically with that very gusty winds, and the temperature is going to be dropping quite dramatically also. Now, if we look at composite reflectivity, this is what the Doppler radar may look like here over the next 60 hours. Actually, no, this is the HERT, and actually this is just today's run. So I'm just going to update this. We're now looking at 15Z. Let's go ahead and see how much data we have here. Here we go with that frontal system moving through the area. You can see it kind of move across Seattle as we go through the later morning, early afternoon hours. Willamette Valley. There might be some moderate rain embedded in there at times as we go through this afternoon. Also, you can see that spread across eastern Washington and Oregon, maybe an isolated thunderstorm with some of that. And then you also see the convergence on activity here across the Central Sound and towards the foothills of the Cascades as we go on in through tonight. So yeah, there goes our first frontal system right there. Now, if we take a look at Seattle, Tacoma, you can see the first frontal system here. You're looking at maybe 0.3 of an inch, then a little bit lesser amounts with that second one, as much of that storm is going into western BC. Here's Hoquiam, a similar picture here as well. Here's Tillamook. You can see the second system not bringing much precipitation down towards a lot of the Oregon coast. Now, here's Hoquiam. Look at some winds. Blustery conditions, the best way to kind of describe this for Hoquiam, Seattle, and for places like Portland probably. You can see, you're only gusting into the low 30s or something like that. I mean, some of the strongest gusts are only up towards 40 miles per hour, even with that secondary storm. However, if you go up, excuse me, a little bit further up the Washington coast, you can see Quileute, some gusts getting up into the 40s there. So that might catch your attention a bit. It's just a typical fall blustery system here as far as, when we go through the rest of the year and you compare these systems. But it is one of the first ones in the year. It might catch your attention a little bit. Here's Whidbey Island. You can see some gusts in the 30s, maybe up towards 40 miles per hour, at least according to the European model. But some of these individual ensemble members do call for some winds up towards 45, which could, have some local tree damage or something to that effect. Now, if we look at the North American model, this is 80-meter wind speed. So as we go through the day today, you can see some blustery conditions, and especially, again, east of the Cascades. Watch out this afternoon. Look at down across southeast Washington, Pullman areas off into Idaho here. Some very strong winds ripping across the area. No doubt going to be kicking up that blowing dust. And then you see the surge coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and the Chehalis Gap kind of meets there across the central Puget Sound. That's what's going to be helping kick off that convergence zone activity through tonight. Then we scroll off into the future, and you see on Thursday the winds really start to ramp up for Vancouver Island, the Strait of Georgia, and some of northwest Washington, and maybe some of the northwest interior. You're looking at Whidbey Islands, the San Juans, maybe some of the coastal areas up towards Skagit and Whatcom County here as well. Port Townsend area could get some gusty winds as we go on in through Thursday night, shown there. Taking a look at the accumulated 10-meter max wind gusts. This is one that's a little bit easier to follow along with. So as we go through the day today, you can see some of these gusts, perhaps 45 plus for places east with the first system. But then the second system, you can see 44 showing up for Quileute here. But look at this. You're talking about, up towards 50 miles per hour even showing up in some of these runs as we go across Whidbey, San Juan, Strait of Georgia, Vancouver Island, Olympic Mountains, the higher terrain there. And again, northwest Washington coast up Vancouver Island towards western BC is going to be getting the worst of this storm system. So if we take a look at the European, this is a wider view of things, and you can clearly see the storm rolling through Thursday. I mean, look at some of these gusts along Vancouver Island, western BC, British Columbia. You can definitely see where the cutoff there between the much stronger winds to the north and the much weaker winds to the south. I mean, if you look at that, it's only calling for 23 miles per hour for max accumulated 10-meter wind gusts here for Seattle, Portland, 20 miles per hour. But again, windier across the northwest interior and the northwest portion of Washington. We take a look at the temperatures over the next few days. Look at how warm it is still east of the mountains today, but that is going to dramatically cool off tomorrow. Temperatures just into the low 70s for many areas. And then there goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We kind of stay seasonably cool and then maybe bounce back towards normal temperatures as we go through the beginning portion of October. Some of the models are showing some ridging coming through in the early portion of October. So, we'll kind of get some more confidence on what is going to be coming with that here over the next few days. Also, with this system, pretty strong wave action. Let's put this into motion here, and you'll clearly see the system roll in as we go through Thursday night. It's really going to be impacting some of Vancouver Island into Friday morning along the Washington coast. Maybe get out there and do some early season wave watching. It'll bring a nice bump to that activity along the coastal areas where I am scrolling back and forth. And you can see that move down the Oregon coast as we go through the day Friday also. So yeah, we're headed towards fall. It's almost wave season, and we're getting a little bit of an early shot of that. It's the same thing here. We'll just go ahead and scroll through this. Maximum individual wave height. So there goes that system there, really bringing the bump to the coastal areas as we go through Thursday and Friday. 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook. You can see near normal, but some in the interior areas above. We'll take that with a grain of salt. The models are still in flux on what is to come after these systems move through. We'll pay more attention to that probably starting tomorrow or on Friday. There's the 6 to 10 day. You can see the bullseye here across a lot of the west. October 4th, as far as this forecast goes out. But yeah, here it goes. That storm system developing. Get ready for that rain today. It's not a lot, but it's a nice little early season, fall season tease here as we go. So, yep. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. We'll break this all down again tomorrow. This storm system will be knocking on our doorstep by then. We'll look at any last minute changes. But otherwise, I hope you guys are having a good day. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.